Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'd really love that. If you're returning, how you doing? All right, listen. So with yesterday's videos, I saw a lot of comments about did I see what Congress is going to try and do with the inauguration. So I did some digging and this is what I found. All right, and I they can try, okay? They can try, all right? So what they're going to try and do, all right, and I'm going to explain it the best way that I can. In the U.S. Constitution, all right, it says that if someone who has sworn to support it then takes part in an insurrection or a rebellion against it, they can't hold office in the U.S. Now, this rule comes from Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And the only way this ban can be lifted is if 2/3 of both the House and the Senate vote to remove it. The idea here is not about rebelling about against the government, but against the Constitution itself. And they're saying, okay, these are not my words, all right? So I don't want you to say, oh my God, she's against it. Listen. They're saying that there's strong evidence that 45, now 47, did this. And this was looked at in 3 different places, okay? The second impeachment, which was in early 2021, where he was impeached for encouraging an insurrection. The Colorado court case, after a detailed legal hearing, a Colorado court decided that now 47 took part in an insurrection, and this was backed by the Colorado Supreme Court. But when it went to the U.S. Supreme Court, they said that only federal law, not state law, can enforce this disqualification. And they did not say that 47 did not engage in an insurrection, just that states cannot act on it alone. And the House Committee on J6. This committee, which in my opinion should never, it just doesn't make sense to me, but whatever, also found evidence of 47's involvement in the insurrection, even though there was no involvement. But I'll go on. So some people think that because of the Supreme Court's decision, Congress can't reject 47's Electoral College votes based on this amendment. However, they think that there are good reasons to argue against this. The Supreme Court's comment about needing new laws was just a side note, not a binding decision. Counting electoral votes is a job for Congress, not the courts. So the Supreme Court can't really tell Congress what to do here. And I'm giving you the facts, not my opinions, okay? Please don't go, oh my God, unsubscribe because she's telling facts. Listen, you guys know I do my facts and I fact check myself and everything else, okay? There's already a law, that the Electoral Count Act, that explains how to handle disputes about electoral votes. And it says that these votes can be challenged if they were not legally certified or if they were not regularly given. And a vote for someone who's not allowed to hold office because of the Constitution is not regularly given. So for Congress to challenge these votes, 20% of each House must agree to look into it. If both the House and the Senate agree by majority vote that those votes do not or will not count, potentially changing who gets elected. Now, if 47's votes were all thrown out, then Harris would become president. It's unlikely that Republicans in Congress would go for this, since it would mean that Harris would become president. Okay? Nobody wants that. But Democrats are encouraged to uphold the Constitution by challenging these votes, since Trump is, in their eyes, disqualified unless Congress votes to remove that disqualification. All right? So I hope that you guys understand how it works. Now, I do have a video of someone who explains maybe a little bit more than what I've already explained. Okay, so here you go. Ciao.
Not the Hill coming out here trying to start shit a day after Christmas. Well, you should know that the electoral votes and Congress counting them is more ceremonial than it is anything. It's the same way with the vice president before they changed the rules after January 6th. The opinion piece from the Hill states the basis of Trump not being inaugurated as president of the United States on January 19th is because of the insurrection clause that is currently in the United States Constitution. If you incited or participated in an insurrection or evading the enemy or helping the enemy, you cannot be president, you cannot hold any office. The question, well, is what really happened in insurrection then? And the Hill was like, yeah, and here's some examples. And first they talk about the impeachment trial when Trump was impeached in the House for an insurrection. They couldn't get enough votes to remove him, and it never paid to pass the Senate, so the whole thing just kind of died. And apparently there was a Colorado court case, a 5-day judicial due process hearing, where the court found by clear and convincing evidence that President Trump did participate in an insurrection. But if I remember right, didn't that go to the Supreme Court, and it turned out that they wouldn't rule on it, and I didn't really hear anything about it since. Yeah, the court did not address the finding that Trump engaged in. Like, the whole thing just kind of fell. And then the last one that they talked about was the bipartisan inquiry of the House Select Committee to the J6 committee, which in and of itself is under investigation now because of all of the things that it did, like lying under oath, fabricating evidence. There was a lot of stuff. Hoosiers, they say you need to act fast because new Congress is going to take its seats on January 3rd, saying that old Congress needs to get on the stick and do it now before January 3rd when new Congress comes in. Well, even if old Congress came out and said, look, we're stopping the inauguration, new Congress could easily overturn it. So I'm not really sure what they're trying to achieve with this article, which brings me to my next point. When you read through this article, it talks about all kinds of things, and it's using like big words and all this stuff. And they do this to confuse you. Use this basic bold ass headline to get your attention, and then you try to read the article and it doesn't make sense. And a lot of the things that are in it are very fluidly factual, like the J6 stuff. They didn't talk about how the J6 committee is now kind of an inept committee, right? The whole thing has been disbanded and disbarred. They do this kind of shit to scare you and to stir the pot. Here's what I did. So X has this feature and it's called Grok. And what you can do with Grok is you can plug in the link to the article and you can say, hey, can you explain this to me like I'm 5 years old? Like, how are they going to be able to stop this? Because I thought all of these court cases, you could just put it all in. And Grok's like, you know what? I got you. Here's how it laid out. And so what I'd asked, I said, can Congress stop the inauguration? And Grok had said, well, theoretically, Congress could attempt to block Trump's inauguration under extreme circumstances, such as through a legal interpretation of the 14th Amendment insurrection clause, or by refusing to certify the electoral votes. The practical and legal hurdles are making this very unlikely. The process for inauguration is well established, and without clear legal consensus or legislative action, Congress is not poised to legally or practically prevent Trump from being inaugurated on January 20, 2025. Essentially, if full Congress was going to do this, they would have had to have gotten on the stick already. Like, they would have had to do it literally days after the election, because this would have been a court hearing and court proceedings, and then it probably would have gone to the Supreme Court, then it would have got held up in appeals. I mean, there's no time for any of that, especially with new Congress taking its seat on January 3rd. That being said, this article is fucking everywhere and everyone's freaking out. Like, don't freak out just to grab your attention. This is what mainstream media has been doing for a long time. He's probably going to be inaugurated, and then he's probably going to buy Canada and the Panama Canal, and there was another one. Oh, Greenland. He's also going to buy Greenland. World peace. Who knew it would end up like this, yeah? Who knew?